Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our second episode of the My Mental Health It's Not Minor speaker series in observation of Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. My name is Regina Kinney, and I am the founder of Mindful and Melanated, the online community for everything mental health and wellness for Black women.
And good evening, everybody. My name is Paige Gaines, also known as Sane Jane, and I am the CEO and founder of 911 Sane Jane. And I am a mental health coach and an advocate for all mental health challenges and all other issues like such.
Awesome. So we have an amazing guest tonight. We have Miss Nieisha Deed. She is the founder and CEO of PureSpark, and Paige is going to tell us a little bit about her.
Absolutely. So, a Roxbury native of Massachusetts, she again is the founder of PureSpark, and she spent 15 years as a corporate accountant until she was diagnosed with severe depression and unable to return back to work. After her recovery, she founded PureSpark, a platform she uses to help educate the community on the importance of prioritizing their mental health. She's a mental health advocate and public speaker who is unafraid to share her own personal story to aid in the recovery of others. Nieisha is a staunch believer in seeking support and going to peer support groups. During her talk, she's going to tell us how and why it is important to surround yourself with healthy support systems while you're good and when you're not feeling it. So thank you and welcome.
Welcome, Nieisha.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I was jamming during the intro. I was like, oh, I love the music. I was vibing out.
You played my song last night.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that's our song.
That's right.
So we're just going to jump right in. So you say, Nieisha, that you chose to live your life more authentically. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so as Paige mentioned in the intro, I spent 15 years in corporate accounting, and it wasn't a profession that I liked or had a passion for. I entered into the profession because I knew that financially I wouldn't have to worry. And I didn't, I had reached the six figures, and that part of my life, that section of my life was perfect, right? But deep down inside, I just wasn't happy because I wasn't living in my purpose and I wasn't living authentically. And I realized that, for a long time, for 15 years, I put on a mask to go to work. And so, going to work and not being able to bring my true self there was a big factor into why I became severely depressed. So once I left that toxic environment, because for me it was toxic because I didn't feel like I was able to be my true self there. Once I left that toxic environment, I kind of discovered what it felt like to live in my true authentic being. And I was like, oh, heck no, I am never going back to wearing a mask. I just can't. Like, this is how life was meant to be lived. And I really pray and hope that everyone can experience this at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So I know just from going over your bio and just from you speaking, that you lived with depression. So I also live with a mental health diagnosis. And my question is, was it a challenge or was it difficult accepting that diagnosis? I know that was for me. So I was wondering, yeah.
For sure. So my formal diagnosis, whether you believe in diagnosis or not, is bipolar disorder. So just to give the listeners a little bit of background on bipolar disorder, you experience two extremes, right? You can experience the extreme mania, or you can experience depression, or you can experience both at the same time, which is a little tricky. But the point in which I sought for help was during the depressive portion of the bipolar. And yes, it was extremely, when I tell you extremely hard for me to accept, it was extremely hard for me to accept because not only was I diagnosed with this, however, my sister is 2 years older than me, was also diagnosed with this mental health disorder. And to watch her go through it, I was so afraid to get this label. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to go through exactly what my sister is going through. But we're two individual people, right? We have different fingerprints, right? We're not the same being. So my experience with the disorder was different than hers. And also watching her go through it, I learned some do's and don'ts. And I was a little bit more receptive to receiving help because I could see if I don't receive help, this is where it could go. But I did think for a long time that, this was something that was my fault, how did I get here? And it was very embarrassing at first. But once I kind of accepted, the diagnosis, and I accepted, that, this might be something that I have to kind of be concerned about or think about as I live my life, I said, you know what? It's okay. Like it's actually okay. I know what to do to manage it. And if I don't, I'll figure it out. And I will be okay.
No, absolutely. And I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and it was just a challenge accepting it and moving forward. So, which leads me to my next question that she actually tapped into a little bit. But how challenging was your journey to recovery? Like, and how were you able to get to where you are now?
Yeah. So I will always say that I'm in recovery. I don't think that like this is something like, oh, you pop a pill, whatever, you're done with. I think honestly, it's something that it's important to be mindful of. It's important to be aware of like what your triggers are. It's important to be aware of the warning signs. So I would never say that like, I'm fully recovered. But, along on my journey, I kind of figured out, what things work, right? What healing modalities work. Like I said, what my triggers are and what my warning signs are, so that I kind of don't fall back into those dark times, or like I'm not in control, and that can be a very dangerous place.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So you kind of touched on this. You founded PureSpark. Can you tell us about it and why you started it and what you offer through it?
Yeah, so PureSpark really came out of my own story, right? It was me going to therapy. Then it was me, adding medication in. And then I got to the point where I was like, I'm curious to know like what else is out there besides like therapy. Like what other things can I do? Because for me, the medication that normally works is actually very, very toxic. It's lithium. So I was prescribed with lithium, and I can only stay on it for a certain amount of time until it starts to affect my thyroid. Until like, my hair might actually fall out. There's all these different things that will happen to me. So I can't stay on it for a very long time. I just need it to like get me balanced, and then I have to get off. So I was afraid, like, oh my goodness, if I get off, what other practices am I going to do to kind of help me stay balanced? So I started engaging in yoga. And then I was a part of this program at Boston College here in Boston that offered a mental health recovery program. And then I started opening my eyes up to Reiki, Tai Chi, all of these different forms of ancient healing. And I said, wow. Unfortunately, the people that were in the program didn't look like me. And so it, made me think, okay, why aren't people that look like me accessing this great information? I want to share information like this to my community, just in case people, can't take medicine or they have the same issues that I have with medication. What else can they do? What other practices can they tap into to help them along on their mental health journey? So I decided I wanted to create a directory, and this directory is currently just for people in the Massachusetts area. So if you are, and it's for therapists as well. I don't want to take therapists out of the equation because therapy is so important, and I believe in therapy, but it's actually thinking about what can accompany therapy. because we do know about the mind-body connection and how trauma is stored in the body and all of these different things. So what else are you doing besides therapy to kind of help you kind of deal with what you might be dealing with? So we invite, therapists to be on the platform. We invite Reiki practitioners, doulas, anyone who is doing the healing type of work. We want them to join the community, to join the PureSpark community. And my job is to really elevate kind of the work that they're doing. I think of myself as a conduit and a liaison to kind of bring people together. And then also too, we host weekly peer support groups that give people a chance to, for example, Regina, last night you talked about your story, you talked about your platform. Resources are so important. So my duty, I feel like, is to share all the resources that exist and share them with the community. And then also to give people a taste of what it would be like to maybe go to a yoga class, what it would be like to go to Reiki. What is Reiki, So that's the education piece of PureSpark. And then, obviously me doing stuff like this, talking about my story, and that's really important to me as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate you for sharing your story and being transparent. I was just telling Paige before the broadcast that I met you because you were speaking at a Black mental health event, and your story resonated with me because both of us worked in corporate America, and I was like, wow, someone who looks like me, Black female, going through pretty much the same thing that I was going through, wearing the mask, having the facade, and just faking it every day, So you mentioned that you have peer support groups every week. You offer that through PureSpark. So for our audience, can you tell us what the difference between a peer support group is and group therapy?
Yes. So there is a huge difference. So the peer support groups are normally led by a peer, right? So a peer is a person who kind of has experience with whatever the topic might be. So I normally equate it to kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous, where the person who is speaking and leading the group understands what it is to have an alcohol use issue, right? Or using alcohol as a coping mechanism. So they kind of understand the ins and outs, the feelings, and all of that that's involved, with alcohol use. Group therapy is led by a therapist normally, and most of the times it's something that you would have to pay for, either self-pay or through your insurance. And, they'll do different topics, whether it be like grieving, therapy on grieving. And you'll be in a group with other people that have that specific, that are trying to work through that specific thing. So the difference between the two is, a license. And I think both are great. I've done both. But obviously, since I am the person leading and I don't have a license and I don't desire to have a license, I go off of my lived experience and I decide to host peer support groups.
Awesome. Amazing.
No, I love that. And I feel as if peer support is crucial. That's actually how I got into mental health, by highlighting my lived experience. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for what you do in that space. So my follow-up question would be, how crucial is a support system to our mental health?
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah. This is huge, 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 huge. Very, very important. I always say, when I'm sharing my story, a lot of times I say, if it wasn't for my family, I probably wouldn't be here. My family was a lifeline. And I'm thankful because it's not like I depend on one specific person, because it is a lot. I think it can be a lot, a big thing to carry. So luckily, I have a pretty large family and they all were checking on me. I had aunts, uncles, and, cousins calling, texting, hey, Nieisha, you don't seem like yourself. You okay? And I try to, push it off. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. Just working hard. I'm tired, da, da, da. But they kept calling and calling consistently. And when they didn't reach me, that was the day that I attempted So trigger warning, I won't go into too much details, but they had the wherewithal. It was my cousin and my sister. They dropped everything and they came to DC because I was living in DC and most of my family lives in the New England area, either Connecticut or Massachusetts. And so a support system is super important. People that kind of know you, right? Because if they know you, they know when you're not yourself, and I continue to have a support group of people that, I think, every friend, every family member serves a different purpose, right? Like you might have a friend that you can call if you want a good laugh. You might have a friend that you call, you want to vent to. And those people are so important. Relationships are so important in life. So please nurture your relationships. And if you have to, build new ones. Maybe you might be able to find them in a peer support group. I don't know, but they are so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I like how you said that, different supports can offer different levels or types of support. So I know for me, I do have the person that I call when I just want to crack up. I have a friend, I call her my bougie friend. I hope she's not watching. But I call her my bougie friend.
That's okay.
When I want to go, to the spa or whatever. And then I have, friends who have lived experience that I can have like a real, like, I'm struggling here, like, can you help us sister out kind of thing. So you mentioned your family. Is there anyone else that you have that's part of your positive support system?
Absolutely. I have friends that I have managed to maintain for almost, wow, I guess it's 30 years. Friends that know me since elementary school. And those friends are so important. So those are part of my support group. People that I might have even met over the internet, just, connections that I made online. That would be a part of my support group. The way that I even have my like Facebook and Instagram set up, when I scroll, it's nothing but positive stuff, positive affirmations, things about self-love. It's not a person, but it's a part of my self-care routine because I don't want to see all that negativity and, stuff that's just going to weigh me down. And I also have a person that I'm working with. I recently started, and I think I told you this yesterday, but I recently started on kind of a different wellness journey where I am changing the way that I eat. Yeah. And it's been so hard for me because I realized that I have a food addiction. Yeah. And people might look at me and say, well, Nieisha, you don't look like you have a food addiction. I do. And I think that there were certain things that I was eating that was causing me to become more irritable, like sugar and like, all this bread and stuff that, whatever, it's delicious. But, and so he is a part of my support group. I meet with him twice a week. And he's huge. He's a huge part of my support group. I don't currently have a therapist. But at one point in time I did, and that would have been a part of my support group. So it's important to have those people.
Agreed. Oh, agreed.
Yeah. So being a peer has its challenges, right? Being vulnerable has its challenges, and sharing our story has its challenges. So my question is, what helped you get to the point of being comfortable to use your own story to help others?
Oh, I was so afraid. So the first time that I ever shared my story, my mom had sent me a request from McLean Hospital. McLean Hospital is doing work, and McLean Hospital is a hospital in Massachusetts that's well known. They are just a mental health hospital. That's it. That's all they do. And they were doing a campaign around like removing the stigma related to mental health. And I read it. I read what they were trying to do, and I thought it was amazing. And I had talked to the person, and they wanted me to share my story, and I was like, okay. So I started the process. They did this whole photo shoot, and they had this writer like interview me so that they can come up with, a blurb. And throughout the whole process, which took probably about like a month and a half or so, I'm like, am I really going to do this? Am I really about to like out myself? And I say out myself because I really do feel like it's one of those experiences where people don't know by looking at you that, you're dealing with something, right? And so it was really like a coming out experience. I felt like I was like, oh my goodness. And I remember, they even asked me too, are you sure you want to do this? And all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I have to do this because I don't know if I mentioned this. I don't think I mentioned this, but in 2018 and 2019, I had lost my 5th family member to suicide. So it was very personal on 2 different regards, that it was like something that I was dealing with, but it was my family that was also being affected by this. And then beyond that, I had a friend that had lost her brother to suicide. So it was like, even in my friend group, it was all around me. So I felt so compelled to do it, not just for me, but for the people around me. So anyway, going back to the article that was being written about me, that McLean Hospital was working on, I remember that it was done. They finalized it. It was up in the interwebs somewhere. And then I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to post this article on Facebook. And I was at my sister's house in Cambridge, and I'll never forget it. And it was just a feeling. I was like, it's time. Let me just do it. So I posted on Facebook, and I ran to the bathroom. I started crying. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. I really did it scared, Mm-hmm. And then I came back to my laptop, and I saw all these DMs and these comments of like, me too, I'm dealing with such and such. Wow, Nieisha, I never knew. Why, you always get these comments of, well, dang, why didn't you never tell me you was dealing with da-da-da? Like, I mean, what was you going to do? Like, some people, it's like, I don't know, you probably couldn't handle it, So I did it scared. I did it scared. I was not like, this is not a big deal. It was a big deal because the stigma is so real. But because of the reception, I let down a lot. I said, oh, okay, I could do this. And always get great feedback. So that's what keeps me doing it. Like, this is important. And it's helping people. It's opening up people's eyes to like, mental illness is not just the person that sits outside, right? And might be homeless or, dealing with drug addiction or whatever. It's the people that you work with. It might be your boss. It might be your doctor. It could be anybody. Because mental illness, depression, it doesn't discriminate.
Right. The one thing that doesn't discriminate, right? So you talked about being scared when you like outed yourself. I think that there is no growth and comfort. And I commend you for doing that and feeling, scared and it like just, I know when I outed myself, I felt naked, like exposed. And but like you said, I got really good reception from folks, and I was like, okay, this is resonating with people. This is bigger than just me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I really commend you for doing that.
Thank you.
So I think, in my opinion, the best part about having a strong support system is having these "am I tripping" conversations. So, or am I wrong conversations. So like, I'll call my brother and I'll be like, am I wrong? And he'll be like, oh Lord, what happened? Am I overthinking this? Do you have those type of conversations with your support system? And
yeah, there's this one person in particular that is really like, I don't want to call him my North Star or guiding star, but someone who is really level-headed, and someone who I can talk to about a situation and not feel like judged. Like we are really just talking about whatever that situation is, and they're like, well, why don't you look at it this way, or maybe that. I'm like, wow, you know what, you're right. And the funny thing, or the interesting thing, is that we do that for each other. So he might be going through something and he'd be like, wait a minute, I'm like, actually, so it's great because we can have that conversation and not feel like the other person is like judging the other person. Yeah, those are great conversations to have. People to keep you in check, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, so keeping in check, right? So I practice DBT. For those who don't know what DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy. And one of the things they teach you for emotion regulation is checking the facts. And sometimes I can't do it myself, so I do rely on someone who is more level-headed and can just kind of talk me off the ledge and just like, yeah, girl, you are tripping.
Yeah, we need that. All of us do. I think sometimes because our emotions can cloud our judgment sometimes, right? And that's anybody. I mean, it's not specific, I don't think, to people who have a diagnosis. That's just anybody walking on the street. Sometimes our emotions can take over. And during those times, for me, like, one emotion that sometimes really takes over my whole ability to like think clearly is anger. And if I'm angry, I have to step away from the situation. I have to be alone so that I can kind of process everything, and then I can go after it, or then I can have a conversation with someone. But yeah, sometimes, our emotions can cloud our judgment, and it's always good to know that, right? To be aware that, oh, wait, I'm angry, and you know what? I need to have a woosah moment. Because sometimes we act on that emotion, and the behaviors that come after aren't so healthy. But if you can pause and have those conversations, yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have those conversations, Paige? Those am I tripping conversations?
Every day, 2 to 3 times a day. Like if I'm really upset, I'll call. And I have, like we said in our support systems, I have like very detailed people that I call for certain things. I will not switch it up no matter what the feeling is. I'm like, girl, you're going to be the one to take it over there. So I need to call this individual instead. And it's just helpful, and it's comforting not having to second guess yourself alone. Like having that question, having those conversations for somebody to say, no, you're not. And this is what this looks like, and so forth. It's comforting for me. I definitely, absolutely, all the time.
Yeah, I just think like I tell people, like, if like just how you talked about your family, how if your family wasn't there, if my family and my friends weren't there, like, so for me, it took me forever and a day. I'm not exaggerating. Okay, I am exaggerating, but because yeah, it took me forever and a day to get to the point where I was comfortable. There's that word again. Comfortable asking for help. Not even asking, but someone offering and then me accepting it. Have you ever gone through that, Nieisha?
Of course. That's we bought into the strong Black woman stereotype, right? That archetype, like if we ask for help, then that means we're weak. You know what I mean? That's the whole idea. And I used to be that person at work. Oh, I can do it all. Put more on me, because I wanted to showboat. Like I did this and I can do it and I'm strong, and give me that promotion because you put more on me. I can handle it. And then even deeper, it's like, well, this isn't as bad as what my ancestors had to go through. So who am I to complain? But then you remind yourself, wait a minute, I'm a human being with real needs, and it's actually okay for me to ask for help. If I don't know an answer, or if, I need help carrying something, whatever it is, in any regard, it is okay for me to ask for help. There is nothing wrong with it. So I ask for help all the time now. I don't play that. No, I need help. Help me.
I hear that.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's important to like recognize that piece, even on like our smallest tasks. Like when it's a dark day, getting that help on the smallest things is such a relief because those are the things that kind of stop our day-to-day actions, right? Those small pieces. So asking for help, it was hard for me accepting. I'm happy you asked that question. We had a similar question. So I'm happy that you said that. It was hard for me asking. And then once I asked, it was difficult to receive it. And yeah, so I'm happy that we're even talking about that because I think it's easier said than done.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So with leading all up to that, I'm very curious. I love to pick people's brain about what their self-care looks like. Obviously expanding mine. So I'm curious of what you do to take care of yourself and to be in a space of peer support. We have to be very cautious. So yeah, so I'm interested in what it looks like.
Well, you know, what's interesting, you know, I want to touch on something is that I think people, maybe I do a really good job with creating boundaries because I don't get people reaching out, you know, thinking of me as like a therapist or something like that and asking me those types of questions. I position myself in a sense where people ask me, who can I go to see? Like, do you know of a therapist? Do you know of a Reiki healer? And so on and so forth. So luckily, you know, I don't get too much of that. But I still believe that self-care is critical to our well-being, and that I saw something on Instagram like talking about generations and how they did self-care. It was like, you know, our great grandmother and the self-care that she did was probably like journaling. It was like one thing. And then with each generation, it was like, you know, adding to it. And then it got to like you, the person today. And it was like a long list of different like self-care activities. I am not a journaler by the way, but journaling is awesome. If you do it, love it. But for me, I am more of a movement type of person. I enjoy moving my body. So dance is a self-care activity for me. I recently went to a dance class at Hibernian Hall in Nubian Square, if anyone here is in Boston. And I partook in a hip hop class. And it was just like, at the end, we did like freestyle, and I was just like freestyle dance. It was so much fun. So that's something that I engage in. I'm a huge believer of yoga. So I have my mat that basically is just laying on the floor next to my bed because I like to do yoga when I wake up, and then I like to do yoga before I go to sleep. And then I also I live like maybe 5 minutes walking distance from a park, Franklin Park for people who live in Boston. And I will walk around Franklin Park, especially on a nice sunny day, get some of that vitamin D. And I might even do some yoga outside. And then talking about like supports, right? Sometimes I'll invite a friend to come along with me on that walk, and we'll talk while we're walking. So it's kind of like double benefits there. Also, the way that I eat, I think, is self-care because I try to make sure that I'm eating things that's nourishing, not only for my body, but for my mind. So like green vegetables, ancient grains, those types of things. I try to make sure I get that. So I think it's about, you know, what I'm doing, then also the things that I don't do. Like I just said, I curate my social media so that I don't see a lot of posts about things that I don't want to see. And I don't watch TV that, you know, I don't watch things about things that might make me feel kind of down or anything. You know, also with food and stuff, I try to stay away from things that I know might make me feel lethargic and all of those things. So I think self-care is about the things that you do, but also the things that you don't do. Yeah.
I love that you highlighted both sides of that. That's awesome. I never actually thought about the other side. So thank you for pointing that out. I love that.
Yeah.
And I like that you talked about like real practical things that you do for self-care, because I think, you know, Instagram has played us and linked us and made to believing that self-care is having the goddess bath and the spa treatment, and that's all fine and dandy. You know, I like a good massage. I like me a good facial. It's just ain't kind of like that.
You're not doing that every day. Self-care is literally things that you do to take care of yourself. We should be taking care of ourselves every day.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. So it's because I like to say self-care is giving your body what it needs when it needs it.
Absolutely.
So if you're thirsty, if you drink a glass of water, that's self-care. So Paige, I'm so glad you asked that question because I'm a big proponent of self-care, but I also tell people like, listen, Instagram got y'all fooled. Like, just take care of yourself.
Period.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Period. With a T. With a
Tea, with the tea.
With the T.
Absolutely. Gotta put the emphasis on it. Yep.
Yeah.
We gotta, I think you're right, Regina. Instagram does have us fooled about a lot of things related to mental well-being. And even with like yoga, yoga doesn't have to be like we talked about yesterday, where you're doing a handstand and all these like tricks and stuff. It could literally be you laying in savasana, which is just laying down, right? Are you standing in tree pose? Like these simple things. It's about you connecting with your body, the mind-body connection. It does not have to be that elaborate for it to be considered yoga or for it to be considered self-care.
Exactly. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Go ahead. Sorry. Me and Paige were competing for the next question.
No, I'll follow you. I didn't know how if you wanted to move into our following question or if you had another question you wanted to ask us.
Yeah, so it's not really a question, but more of a. So you mentioned this comment. You mentioned strong Black woman syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to let everyone know that Miss Nieisha Deed is going to be our mistress of ceremonies for the Strong Black Woman Redefined discussion we're having in Boston. So if you're local, or if you want to flew out up here, if you want to get flued up, come on to Boston.
Wait a minute, Regina, you paying for people to come to Boston?
Oh wait, that's what that means?
No, because you said get flued out. So I'm like, hold on.
Oh wait. Let me erase that. Hold on. If you can pay for your own plane ticket, please come to Boston and support the Strong Black Woman Redefined panel discussion that Nieisha is going to be emceeing. Last year, she was one of the panelists, and then this year she's coming back to be
I'm
there.
so excited.
I'm so excited too. Yeah. But so it's getting to that time. So do you have any other questions, Paige?
I have one question actually. Okay. Is there any advice that you would give somebody that is in their beginning stages of their recovery? There we go. A little tongue tied
there. Their beginning stages of their recovery. I think it's so important that you're gentle with yourself. One of the things that I could remember was, being in that depressive state. I was so frustrated because I was used to getting up and going to work and be able to function, and I couldn't. I like mentally, physically, spiritually, I was depleted. And so it's really, really important that, you give compassion to yourself and allow yourself time to heal, and know that everyone's healing journey is different. Depending on how severe your symptoms are, it can take some time. It can take some time for you to recover what you went through. So the biggest takeaway from, what I went through is giving yourself compassion. And like a good day for you might be that you got up out of bed and you took a shower. Don't compare somebody else's good day to your good day.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Or even comparing yourself to a certain time when you were able to do something, because you're not in that same mindset, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's my challenge. I even still struggle with that today. Like, well, I was doing so well, and today I'm not. And it's like a constant reminder, like, okay, you know what? Take a moment, do some reflection. It's okay. Stay present. So absolutely, I'm happy that you pointed that out.
Yeah, because I do that too. Because I've had a little too many bowls of pasta in my recent life, and I put on a few fluffy things. But and I will look at my pictures and be like, oh, I used to be so thin. I will be in
Mm.
I was and da, 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 da. It is what it is, child.
Yeah, we have to respect where we are right now
Yes,
on
exactly.
our journey. You know what I mean? And a lot of times we want to look back because that's the ego, right? That's the ego wanting to look back at the past and being like, oh, look what I used to do. And da, da, da. No, honey, we here today.
Now you just dropped. Like my head is about to explode. That is ego. That is ego. Wow. We do have a question from the audience. They want to know, Nieisha, do you have any advice for teenagers that are depressed but don't want to go to counseling?
Oh, that is a tough one. And I even say for adults, it's tough because some adults don't want to go to counseling. But I think, one of the things that we have to be mindful of is that, again, people are on their individual journeys, right? And even though we're parents, brothers, sisters, moms, dad, whatever, we might want something for somebody else, but they got to be ready for it, And I know that's hard. That's so hard to hear, especially as a parent that loves their child and all these different things. Another thing that I have started to do that is really helpful, I think, especially when you're working with maybe like younger people, but also older people as well, is like modeling, right? So meaning like, how are you showing up for your mental health, right? Like what things are you doing, right? As the parent possibly, or the sister or the brother or whatever, where, they can probably see, oh, wow, they look really happy, or they look at peace. I want to tap in. What is it that you're doing that, helps you out with that part of your life? And maybe they can join in on some of those activities. But I think the main thing is to always have a conversation with compassion with that person, as the parent. Understand, maybe you don't understand what depression is, or anxiety is, or bipolar is. Maybe, do a little bit of research so that you have a little bit in your arsenal, so that you can kind of understand that they're in their bed all day, not because they're lazy, it's because they can't get up. And then as a parent, I think, it's important to maybe even involve yourself in some, peer support groups for parents that are dealing with children that have, are dealing with whatever. Because then you can kind of learn maybe some tricks from other parents and what they do and how they handle it. I don't know where this person lives, but NAMI has a family to family peer support groups for family members that are dealing with loved ones that have a diagnosis.
That's a really good point. And that question really touched me because I have been suffering from depression since I was, around 12 years old. And my mom did the best that she could do. But if I feel like if there were peer support groups available in our area during that time in my life, I think, like you said, she would have been equipped. She would have had tools in her arsenal to better support. Because I just think she took it on and she just felt super sad that she couldn't help me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it's like that's not your fault. You're not a mental health clinician, so it's like you can't knock yourself for that. So yeah, that really kind of hit me a little bit there. So yeah, yeah. But so I want to ask, how do we get in touch with PureSpark and join
Yes.
the groups and?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, it's at www.yourpurespark.com. There should be an events tab. And on the events tab, you can just click and sign up for an event. I will mention for the month of August, we most likely won't be hosting any peer support groups because I have not gone on vacation for a very long time. And we've been hosting this since the beginning of the pandemic. So going on probably 2 years or something like that. But if you'd like, you can join us on next week's session. We'll be talking about finding our purpose with a life coach. I believe life coaches are also a part of the healing category, and they can kind of help you get to those points in life that you're trying to get to, reach to, different goals, whether it be in relationships, financially, whatever have you. Yeah.
And your peer groups are with the exception of August.
Yes.
Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and they're absolutely free to attend.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Any last questions or words for Nieisha Page?
Nope, I got all my questions answered, plus some, so I'm good. Thank you.
Paige was over there taking notes. I saw her.
Yeah,
Good. I love it.
Well, thank you so much, Nieisha. Thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know everyone who was watching or will watch the replay, I know they would get something out of this. And you guys, please go to www.yourpurespark.com and sign up for one of our peer groups.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye.
You too.
Bye. That was a really good conversation.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. I was able to connect, and she just shared and made me think about things on a different perspective, which I love. So it was really good. I enjoyed it.
I agree. Like how she was talking about self-care is things that you do, but also things that you shouldn't do. Yeah.
That's my way.
Yeah, me too. So I'm gonna start watching the what is it? What's that show I watch? Law and Order. I might have to stop watching Law and Order.
That was a tough one for me. I had to pull away, and I'm very particular about what I watch before I go to bed and when I first wake up in the morning. So I make sure whatever I put in my brain before I go to bed is good for me, and what I do when I first wake up is really good for me. And that's something I have to watch about 12 p.m. if I am going to do it, and it has to be one episode only, and I have to walk away. But it's addictive.
I know, because they be having the marathons. Like, how you got a marathon every week? Anyway, we're way off topic. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Again, my name is Regina Renee. I am the founder of Mindful Melanated, the online mental wellness community. Wait, I said that wrong. The online community for everything mental wellness for Black women. I encourage everyone to go to mindfulmelanated.com. If you want to join our sister circle, please check us out. We'll be more than happy to have you. The more, the merrier.
And my name is Paige Gaines, and I am the founder and CEO of 911 Sane Jane, and I'm also known as Sane Jane. You can follow me and find me at 911 Sane Jane on all platforms, so all social media platforms and via website. And just thank you for coming out to me.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.